Wow, there are so many, but actually there are a few key ones that I'd just like to share with you today. I think the first one is high-end reception spaces in office buildings. You know, I think schools sadly don't realize often that the reception space is actually the shop front of the school. And when you walk into that space, the question is, what does it tell you about the learning that is happening in the school? What does it tell you about the overall culture of the school? You being students who might be coming into that space every day and who need to be welcomed as they come into the school, as they cross the threshold, or prospective families. How is that space actually selling the school to prospective families? We're dismayed, sadly, often when we walk into these spaces and we find Amazon parcels waiting to be collected, or lost and found spilling their contents everywhere, or notice boards bristling with notices that are out of date. Really, I think that it is very important to realize that the reception space, as well as the attendant admission spaces, are spaces that can afford to be carefully curated. The message that they send is so powerful and so important, and I think it's a space that should embody the ethos of the school, and it should sell the ethos of the school. So I think we look a lot to high-end offices to see how they do this and what we can bring to bear for schools. Another one that is really important is dining spaces. And I think all too often in schools, these spaces are just so awful, so utilitarian, so noisy, so dirty, don't actually celebrate that moment of coming together in the school day, of eating healthily, of learning about what you're eating. So to this end, I think we really look at good examples of restaurants. They don't have to be expensive examples, but examples where everyone is welcomed. So if, for example, you want to have a quiet space, you want to sit by yourself or maybe just in a group of two, the space offers you that opportunity. Equally, if you feel more gregarious, you can choose, a space in the middle where larger groups can gather. I think as with the learning spaces, equally there should be a range, a variety of options within dining areas that allow you to choose the space best suited to how you're feeling in that moment in time. I think also these spaces can just be so much better in terms of the beauty of the space, the finishes that are used, the acoustics, but also treating it as a learning opportunity, not an in-your-face learning opportunity, but a learning opportunity which happens organically, so beautifully displayed, healthy food, and then you have the agency to choose which of those wonderful offerings you'd like to eat that day. I think really that can have a huge impact on dining spaces in schools. The other thing I also really like to do is observe the spaces that young people create for themselves. So these range obviously from building huts or hideaways, also to, which you often see in school, if the students have the agency to do this, is where they will take a couple of sofas and some soft chairs and some pillows and kind of create a nest or a space for themselves, which is a cozy space, which has delineated boundaries, a space where they can feel safe, because I think it's so important that we provide those spaces within a school. So it's kind of learning from that, looking at the scale of those spaces, looking at the coziness and the comfort of those spaces, and then working out how we can actually include those different scales, those different spaces within the design.